What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Get Over Yourself podcast. I'm your host, Brandon Davis, and I got Jaron Erickson sitting next to me. For all those in the Utah territory, if you're based out of Utah, you probably recognize this guy's face if you're watching on YouTube or Spotify, or you recognize his name if you're just listening out there. He's like the king of LinkedIn. I've been following him on LinkedIn for years now, and I feel like he's the one who got me motivated to start posting on LinkedIn because it's a very interesting platform compared to your typical social media. But I wanted to have Jaron on the show today because he has an insight on sales experiences, specifically in business-to-business selling, tech sales, software sales, whatever you want to call it. He's somebody I want to work with here in the future, and so I was like, he needs to come on the show, share some of his insights. It's going to be part of a segment we're doing here on the show where we're getting to hear a little bit more from industry leaders and hear about their jobs and also how their jobs specifically improve their lives and quote unquote help them get over themselves. So Jaron, I'm glad you hopped on the show with me today, man. I'm super excited.
Well, I appreciate you having me. I think it's cool what you've built through this medium, and you've done over 100 episodes, which I think is pretty amazing. So I think the consistency behind what you've done has been incredible.
Thanks, man. Yeah. Show's been going for a little over 2.5 years now. This August we'll hit 3, and so it's just a pleasure to be doing it. I get to meet so many fun people, help all the audience get over themselves a little bit. But yeah, guys, Jaron's going to be dropping a lot of wisdom about the specific industry of business-to-business selling and how it connects back to his personal life on self-improvement. So with that all being said, let's jump into today's episode. So I want to get a little bit of a framework on who you are to begin with. The reason why I had you on the show is you're incredible at business and you're a very outgoing guy, but at the same time, you're very goal-oriented. Mm-hmm. So maybe you can give kind of a background on yourself and kind of who you are and why you are that way.
100%. Yeah, I really believe in living a really well-rounded life because if one area is not going well, hopefully you got other areas that are going well and you can keep everything building and improving. But about 2.5 years ago, I started a company called Sales Dojo, where we specifically train individuals and teach them how to be SDRs or sales development reps and help them get hired into tech companies. I previously worked in the tech industry. I worked for a company called Divvy, and I came in as like an entry-level SDR. I had no sales background. I had no technical experience. And I didn't even have a degree. And all of a sudden I get hired as an SDR, and within a year I'd been promoted like 4 different times. And it's because the company I was working for was just growing so quickly. I just kind of grew with the company, and all of a sudden I'm getting paid really well. I had good career growth. I was around amazing leaders and mentors. I just had this thought of like, why don't more people do this? Like, this is such a good career path. Why aren't more people looking at getting into tech sales? Mm-hmm. And so Divvy ended up getting bought out or acquired for $2.5 billion, which was pretty crazy.
And if I could cut you off there for a second too, Divvy, I just saw on LinkedIn, and maybe you'll know the number better than me, but they created, I think, I don't want to speak out of turn here, but I think it said they created over 100 millionaires when they IPO'd, or when they sold, I guess. Mm-hmm. Is that right?
Yeah, so anyone who had stock in the company, when that company sells for $2.5 billion, a little bit of stock goes a long way.
Yeah.
I will say I'm not one of those millionaires, unfortunately. I wish I was. But I did see the potential that came through working in tech because of what had happened to so many people. So once they got acquired, I ended up leaving. We started Sales Dojo, and our goal has been to help as many people as possible transition into high-paying careers in tech, where they have that experience to work for a company that could hopefully make them.
Yeah. And just in the process, too, I mean, sales, B2B sales in and of itself is very lucrative. I'm in a B2B class in college right now, and the professor who's going over different aspects of, and of course you never want to do a job purely on the money, but it definitely helps when, first year out of college, or in your case, you didn't even finish school, but you were still able to get this kind of experience as an SDR. It's around $70,000. Then after a couple of years, if you kind of advance through the ranks, you're around 150. A few years after that, if you're getting really good at it, you can hit $300,000. You know, this industry is very unique. And the reason why I think it can strike a lot of the listeners, obviously those who listen to Get Over Yourself podcast, they're hustlers, they're people who are trying to improve their lives, learn to get over themselves. But at the same time, we also recognize in the world right now, there's a growing gap between inflation, where everything's costing way out the wazoo, and people's wages sticking in the 1990s, 1980s, where they're still making $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 a year maximum, working 50 hours a week.
Yeah.
And so I think sales is a great way to kind of get over that hump, get over the medium average income here in the U.S., and be able to provide for yourself, your future family, and hopefully use that money to do something good, right?
100%. To be honest, I actually had a negative stigma about sales originally. Like, I never wanted to get into sales. I always thought that it was kind of like you need to be manipulative or pushy.
Yep.
And I'm just not that type of guy. And so when I was introduced to the opportunity, I was pretty hesitant at first. But once I saw, like, especially in business to business, when you're talking to, CEOs, CFOs, like industry leaders, it's all about building trust, showing respect, and creating relationships. And so when I recognized that, I was like, I can totally do sales, or like whatever you want to call it. And that skill set of sales, or I like to call it like the ability to build value. That's how I view sales. If you can build value, you need that skill for the rest of your life. Mm-hmm. So one of the biggest reasons I felt like I could go and start my own company was because I knew how to sell.
I knew how to build the value.
I knew how to build value. And if I had a different product, you just change the words, but it's the same skills.
Right.
And so it's the same thing as people are coming through our course or our class. Like, we teach them like how to build value, and we give them scenarios as if they work for different companies. But even if they go work for a different tech company than they practice in the course, you change the words up and you're still good to go.
Yep.
And so I think if anyone's wanting to be entrepreneurial in their career, you need to learn how to sell. I'd say go work for a tech company, learn how to sell for a year or two, and then go try to start something, because It's been one of the best foundations that I could ever ask for.
Yeah. And I want to touch on that point specifically, because in this class I was just talking about, he was showing us a poll they ran in 2002, and they compiled all this list of about 1,000 people, and they said, when we say salesman, what's the first thing that pops in your head? Because they had to respond immediately. And then it has those block letters where the more people said it, the bigger the words get on the screen, right? And so the biggest one was pushy. Then after that, it was sleazy. And then there was snake oil salesman that came to mind, door to door. Like, there's all these different like stigmas that come around sales. And obviously, hopefully this isn't horrible to say, but a lot of stereotypes have a little bit of truth to them. There's a reason they got started in the first place. How do you combat that issue with sales? You're building value, but a lot of people are sleazy in the industry. A lot of people do lie. A lot of people do rip people off. How do you overcome that?
Yeah, I think it definitely happens. I do think it, from my perspective, I think it's less in like a more professional environment. Like when you're selling to other businesses, it really is about like the businesses are evaluating to see if there's a product that can help them reach their goals. If it can't help them reach their goals, then like they're not going to make that decision. And so yes, maybe you could manipulate things if you wanted, but I think for me, the way we run our course and teach our course, it comes down to just a sense of character. Like, sales is helping someone get from where they are to where they want to be. And it's filling that gap with value. And so if you can help someone see where they are and then help them see how you can help them get to where they want to go, it's kind of a no-brainer on the sales side, like the clothing side. But it still comes down to if you want to treat it that way, or if you want to, push and be those words that you kind of mentioned. So I think character plays a big role, especially in sales environment, but I think it also develops a lot of character as you kind of work in that space, which is something I really love.
Yeah. And I think a lot of the reason why the stigma is there to begin with, I mean, technically, when you walk into any store, you walk into Target or wherever, you have these people walk up to you, hey, do you need help finding anything?
Yeah.
What's our natural instinct as a human? No, I'm going to do it myself. So when people come to you and they want to sell you something, you're hesitant. You don't want to accept help. You want to figure it out on your own. You want to do your own research. You want to figure out your own path to tread. right?
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, I think in the past I think to this day, there's individuals in the sales game who don't speak honestly. They don't necessarily do what's right. But that's the same case in any industry. You get people who are liars, cheaters, and at the end of the day, that's their character. They'll be judged for it. Will come judgment day when God looks upon them, and that's the life they have to live right now. But what you're doing with your organization at Sales Dojo is trying to transform that mold a little bit, create these amazing candidates, and then these amazing candidates go to work with other businesses that you're already connected with, and they know, hey, we can trust the Sales Dojo. We can trust all the candidates that come out of it. So talk on that a little bit.
Yeah, well, I think even just that principle of, being honest and trustworthy and making sure that something can help someone, it's a big thing of how we run our own company at Dojo. So from a student side, like when someone wants to take the course, we actually use what's called a deferred tuition model for a lot of our graduates, where the total cost of the course for Dojo, it's $2,000 for student to take, but we only charge $500 up front to come through the entire course. And then once that individual is hired and actually working at a tech company, making money, typically it's like almost 70,000 starting out. That's when we start to just do 3 payments, $500 over 3 months. So for example, from our side, like if we can't help somebody use the skills they gain through the course to actually get hired, then we didn't fully do our job, and therefore we don't get paid because of that. And so I think that's just how things are going to start working more. Like I see a lot of people come out of school and they've paid thousands and thousands of dollars.
Right.
They get a degree and all of a sudden they can't get a job. I'm like, something's broken here.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that'll begin to change, and I'm excited to see that change over the year. I would love to help make that change in the future. But I do think it's so important to be able to use the things, see the value, and then, pay the full cost and the price of whatever it is. So like tying that back into sales, I think if people and companies have that type of perspective, like actually caring about their customers and seeing it to the finish line, those are the best companies. Like those are the people who do the best long term. So yeah. I don't know. Hopefully we can continue to do that moving forward.
And that's a very interesting revenue model for you guys, because it could be risky on your end saying, okay, we're going to teach them all this stuff with only $500 up front, which in the grand scheme of things, if you can learn how to sell, it's worth a whole lot more than $500,
yeah.
Right? You guys are putting that risk on yourselves saying, we're going to teach you this, $500 up front. If you can't find a job, if we failed you, that's on us. We're taking the pay cut. You aren't. And where did you even come up with that idea? And why do you think that's going to be kind of the way of the future?
I don't know. When you start a business, like, it's all testing, trial and error. And so to be honest, like what our goal was at the start, I wanted to run a free course because, we can charge for partners per hire, which helps us keep the cost of the course low, which has been awesome. But originally I wanted to run a free course. I'm like, let's help as many people as we can. And then we can charge companies per hire and like we can be sustainable moving forward. I was like, let's try it. So originally no cost to take the course and we'd have people join. But what we saw was if you buy something that's free, you treat it as if it's free or of no value.
There's no value to it.
No value. And so all of a sudden, like in class, we're having people miss class. We're having people like in the car on their phone, like the headphones in. I'm like, what is going on? Like we're trying to help you guys. And so we ended up implementing like a payment model and like we looked at a lot of other companies once we built a brand, and most companies are probably going to be around like 5,000 to 10,000. So we're already a lot cheaper. And so we just felt like that was a good price point. Like the whole focus is to help someone transition to a better career and actually change their life through that medium. And so if we can't make that happen, then, we don't want to charge them the full price if they're not able to reach their goal.
That definitely makes sense.
So, we needed a buy-in, but we wanted to defer as much as the payment as we could to when they're actually making money. Because once you're making money, it's really easy to just make the payments for 3 months and you're off to the races.
Right. So. And I couldn't agree with you more. When something is free, the value of it totally diminishes. it doesn't matter if it's the coolest thing on earth. If you got it free, you're excited because as humans, we always want something free. We want the incentive. We want to just pick and grab the Costco samples, right?
100%.
But then what do you do with the Costco sample? As soon as you take a little bite of it, you throw it away, right?
Dude.
So that's the same thing with any industry. So that's a very unique model you guys got going.
Yeah.
But
it's been cool. I talked to a lot of entrepreneurs about that, where like I've had different teachers talk about how they've wanted to create different courses and things, and like, I think I want to make it a free course. I'm like, that's super cool. You want to do that, but to be honest, it's more beneficial for the student or the buyer when they actually buy it.
Right.
Like, there's a psychological component that if you can buy into something, you're going to take more out of it. So if you buy an online course for $50, you're probably going to take more out of that course than you would just watching a YouTube video on it.
Definitely.
So I think it's a good principle. I don't know. We try to keep it as low as we can, but it's been cool to kind of learn that as we've gone.
Definitely. And I want to jump over. So you obviously got the sales side. You worked for Divvy for a while. You figured it out. You started your own company to train people how to do tech sales, right? But at the same time, like you mentioned, you're a very well-rounded person and believe in not just being solely focused on the business, but also your personal life. And I saw this one that motivated me a ton because I'm going for it this year, but you just completed an Ironman. Is that right?
Yeah. So I've done 2 half Ironmans.
Okay. And where were they at? What was the process like?
Yeah. So, originally I ran track in high school as a hurdler. Hurdles is like my favorite sport to watch, but it's only cool.
Good for you, man. I could never do that.
It's only cool for other people during the Olympics. So you're like, oh, dang it. I should have played football or something. I originally started as a hurdler. I came back from my mission and I ran at UVU. So I ran at UVU for like a year and a half before kind of realizing I wanted to move on and do other things. But I had a few mentors in my life. One was a seminary teacher and one was my mission president. They both had done Ironman races. And I still look up to these people a lot. And in my head, I'm going, they can do it. I can do it. Yeah. And so there was kind of, I wanted to challenge myself. I wanted to push myself, see what I was capable of. But I also wanted to be like these 2 men that inspired me. Okay. And one of the ways to do that was to do these races. So I did my first half Ironman in 2021. I did St. George. Okay. And then I ended up doing another one last year in North Carolina. Okay. And so I don't have one on the calendar right now. I can do a full Ironman one these days. But I'm not sure if I have the capacity to train for that this year. So we'll see. We'll see when I get that one knocked out.
Yeah, I'm super excited for mine. I was gonna do the St. George just because geographically, I mean, we live in Provo right now, and so it's just a zip down, a couple hour drive, and attach the bike in the back of the car and go. My issue with that though is that one is coming up at the very beginning of May this year. Yep. I was like, I got the swimming down. Well, I have to train for it again, but like you ran track in high school, I swam in high school, and so awesome. I know the training regimen. Running, I could kind of figure it out. You know, you got to figure out your pace and just go for it. The biking is what I was terrified of, though. And I was like, there is no way on earth I'm going to be training on the icy roads in Utah for the entire winter and fall and get destroyed and have no idea what I'm doing and then go race in May for this thing I've never done before. Yep. So I opted in for Santa Cruz. It's in September, so I'll have all summer to train. So it's going to be quite the experience. But I want to relate this entire conversation back to your business / development life. Throughout your entire time of starting the Sales Dojo, throughout accomplishing these lofty fitness goals, and just trying to be a good, well-rounded human, how did these principles, how did these things that happened in your life actually lead you to get over yourself?
Yeah, it's a great question. I'll tie it back into a principle my mission president taught me. So my mission president, his name is Peter Vidmar. Now, if anyone knows anything about Peter Vidmar, he was a 2-time Olympic gold medalist in gymnastics. Wow. So he's like, I think he's 5'6". And so he comes up my shoulder. I'm 6'2". But I look up to this guy in so many ways, just not physically, in stature at least. But when he found out I was going to be a college athlete and go run track in college, he was so excited for me because he was a student athlete at UCLA before he competed for Team USA. And one of the things he said was, the harder you work on the track, the harder you're going to work in the classroom. And that has stuck with me because what he was teaching me is that discipline isn't just something in one area of your life. You can't just discipline one aspect of your life. Discipline is who you are. It encompasses everything that you do. And so for me, if it comes to work or fitness, the harder I can push myself in workout, or the bigger goals I can achieve physically, the bigger goals I can go achieve career-wise or at work. And so that's a principle I really try to operate within is I want to be pushing myself in different areas, because if I can do it in one area, I know I can do it in all the other areas as well.
Definitely. And this phrase, get over yourself, the whole reason why I started this show is to help people realize that their self-limitations, any kind of fear that they have inside of their life, it's able to be conquered. And so what are some things that you've been able to conquer from starting running at UVU, playing college sports, racing in college sports, to now starting your own business to try and figure out life?
Man, it's a great question. I'll tell you, one of the things I feel like I've had to focus on personally to get over is a fear of failure. Because I don't know, I love to operate on a really high level. I like to accomplish big things. I have big dreams and big goals. And that's just the type of person I am. But what I've learned is in order to get there, you are going to fail. Like, you are going to have experiences or times that just fill you with a lot of self-doubt, or you feel inadequate and that you don't belong here, or you'll compare yourself to other people that are doing better. These are all things that, run through my head and that I'll fight through. But what I've really had to do is focus, just like keep my head in my own lane.
Okay.
Like, I got to keep my head down and focus more on what I'm doing than what other people are doing.
Right.
Because the second I start to feel inadequate or like actually feel like a failure is when I start to compare myself to other people. But if I can keep my head down and focus on what I'm doing, mistakes are just learning experiences. And so I think that's what I've had to do in order to, I guess, quote unquote, get over myself, is focus more on what I'm doing and what works for me rather than what works for other people or what they're doing. And so I've done different things. Some people support those decisions, other people don't. And I just have to keep going based off of like what feels right to me. And when I do that, if I do fail, like it's part of my learning experience. I'm more willing to make mistakes because I see it leading to progression rather than comparing my mistakes to other people's success. If that makes sense.
Yeah, and I feel like you're the track star here, so maybe I'm not speaking this, but I feel like there's an example within track, right? You got to stay in your lane. You got to focus on where you're running. You got to focus on your steps, and since you did hurdles, you got to focus on exactly when you're going to leave. If you look over to your right, I've seen clips before where people will be racing, they'll look over to their right to see where the competitors are, and they fall over the hurdle, right?
100%.
And so I feel like if you could just keep your head in your own lane, you could just keep sprinting your way down life's path and not focus on all the racers around you and just think, I'm going to win this race. I'm going to get through it at my time. You're going to be able to do it.
I think that's one of the biggest reasons I love track. Like, nothing else matters during the race except your own performance.
Right.
If you're looking around, that's not going to help you at all. And guess what? Anyone who's on a lane outside of you, or they could look like they're in front of you, it doesn't matter, because the only thing you can control is what you're doing in your own lane. And so I do agree. I think there's a lot of life lessons that come through track that apply into day-to-day living, but that's been one of the biggest things I've taken away.
Yeah. And I want to share this quote too. I'll pull it up here on my phone. I saw this a couple days ago, and it really inspired me. It was from Usain Bolt. And he said this: I trained 4 years to run 9 seconds, and people give up when they don't see results in 2 months. I trained 4 years to run 9 seconds. When you think about it, when you picture a runner, he's got to be like the first person that comes to everyone's head, right?
100%.
Like he's the definition of, like, he's the storybook. And so when I read that, I didn't even realize, like, all this training that led up to it for him to be the best. 9 seconds of total runtime. It's just insane. And so when he said that, when I was reading that quote the other day, I was just thinking, like, where in my life have I given up after a couple months? Where have I put in a little effort? I got super excited for it. And then when I looked around and I saw people running past me, or when I looked around and I didn't see my own accomplishments, like, where did I give up? Have you had any experiences like that since starting Sales Dojo? And like, how do you think you can overcome those?
100%. I had an experience in 2022 in December. So it was right before 2023 started.
Okay. Is this post-Christmas?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. Well, yeah.
Same
it's like
time
that
frame.
gap. So what I'm getting to is it was right before the new year.
Okay.
And I love setting New Year's goals. Like, I love the feeling of a fresh start. Like, new year, new me. Like, I'm going to go crush life.
The cliche phrase, right?
I'm like, I love this feeling. So I love the beginning of January. In December of 2022, I had this thought, like, okay, New Year's coming up. I should set New Year's goals. And then I had a second thought right after that went, why would you set goals? Because you never really focus on them. And that was a slap in the face to me. I was like, what did I just say to myself? Like, did I just tell myself not to set goals? And I started evaluating that thought. I'm like, why did I have that thought? And it's true. I feel like I'd set things before, like I'd made goals before. And the reason I didn't reach them is because I just stopped focusing on them as the year goes on.
And that's normal. Everyone does that for the most part.
I think
it's unfortunate, but it's the commonality.
100%. And so in 2023, I wanted to be known as someone that could set goals and reach goals. Like, that is one of the things I want to be known for in my life. I can set goals, I can reach goals. But I saw that I'm human and I have weaknesses. And one of the things that I was missing in my life was accountability. I was never accountable for goals that I'd set personally. And so I ended up reaching out to a friend of mine. His name's Dylan Heaton. He actually goes to BYU. He's studying performance psychology.
Okay.
And I reached out to Dylan. I said, Dylan, I'm having this idea. Like, you tell me no, but I want you to be my accountability coach. And he's like, okay, tell me more. I was like, I want to have a weekly meeting where you hold me accountable and follow up with me on my daily, weekly, and yearly goals.
Okay.
And I was like, I'm going to pay you. He's like, I'll do it for free. I'm like, no, I'm going to pay you because I need to get value.
It goes back to the free thing we were talking about, right?
So I started meeting with Dylan last year, January. So 2023, January, I started meeting with him every single week. And I'm continuing to meet with him. So for example, last year I set 5 goals that had deadlines. And I set like 5 habitual goals that I just wanted to implement in my life. Every week, Dylan would follow up with me. And there were times I'd miss different things and I'm working on things. But at the end of the year in review, I hit all of my 5 goals that were deadline goals. And I made progress habitually in all 5 habits I wanted to create. And so 2024 comes around. I've done the same thing. I'm continuing to meet with Dylan. But the reason I'm bringing this up is one of the biggest keys to setting goals is to have someone that you're accountable to. Like, Dylan has changed my life just by holding me accountable to what I said I was going to do and what I want. And he constantly, every week, reminds me what my goals are, and we make plans about how we're going to get there. And so I think that's been one of the things that I've been learning is if you have something you want to reach for, you need to be accountable to the things that you're shooting for in order to like really go head in and get the most out of it.
Definitely. And it's funny you bring up this form of accountability. I don't think there's ever been an episode of this podcast where I haven't talked about accountability.
Wow, that's cool.
I'm huge on accountability. Every single episode, something always revolves back around to accountability, but it's because it's true. If you can't hold yourself accountable, which I can't half the time, like you can strive for it, you can always push yourself to it, but there's gonna be times when you just want to throw in the towel, when you want to quit, when you're tired, or when you don't want to get up. It's the human nature. But when you have somebody who's going to keep you accountable, they're always going to make sure you're doing it. And the trick is finding the right accountability partner, right?
Yeah,
you found a friend. Sometimes it's even tough to choose a friend because you can make excuses around them. You can say, hey, I'm too busy for it this week. Let's try again next week, right? So you got to be really strategic on who you're choosing for your accountability partner. Somebody who's going to actually buoy you up. Somebody who's going to encourage you to do it. Somebody who's going to make sure you do it at all costs, right? What was your process in picking Dylan for your accountability
It's a great
coach
question.
or partner?
Yeah, Dylan's a great friend, but he was someone that I wasn't seeing every single day.
Mhm.
He's not like a roommate or anything like that. But what I looked for in like an accountability partner or my coach, as I like to call him, is certain attributes. And again, this ties back into I love finding people that I want to be like that embody different traits that I want. Because I believe if I spend enough time around those type of people, then those types of qualities will become who I am.
They'll rub off on you a little
100%.
bit.
I believe that. And so Dylan, he is extremely consistent. Like he has something he posts every Monday. He does a mindset Monday where he posts a mental skill that we can practice.
Okay.
He posts something about it every single Monday. He doesn't miss.
Okay.
I was like, dang, this guy's consistent. As well as very, very disciplined. Like when he sets goals, I know that he doesn't let things get in the way of what he wants to accomplish. And I was like, those two qualities are things that I wanted. And I loved that he was studying psychology, like performance psychology. It's all about improvement. And so I'm like, he gets it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I reached out to him and he was cool with it. But again, you have to commit to it, because I could have stopped meeting with Dylan a month, 2 months, 3 months down the road. But the consistency over time has built our relationship where I open up about different things or fears and he counsels me on these different things. And so I think it's just finding someone that you feel gets you, can relate to you, but is also far enough removed they can still be your coach and not just like your roommate.
Yeah. And that's something I've been trying to figure out too. So the one I consider my accountability partner right now is my wife.
100%.
And I don't think there's anyone who could do it better than my wife. But at the same time, it is easy for those days where, since I see her every day, obviously it can get easy for me to get complacent. Right.
Yeah.
And I like that you chose Dylan because it's somebody you're not going to see on the regular, where you can kind of just slip by and act like you're doing your goals or you're doing whatever you are trying to get accomplished, but you're not actually, right? There's no cheating that system. Mm-hmm. And in some ways it's very good in my situation too with my wife, because then there's no cheating when, like for instance, I'm on day 370 something of taking a cold shower every day.
Heck yeah.
And there's nights where I don't want to go and do it. I know I'm going to do it. It's become a habit of mine at this point, but she'll remind me on these days. Like if I'm sitting on the couch, hey, you got to go take your cold shower before the day ends, you know?
That's
and,
awesome.
Having that kind of partner is just life changing. Somebody who can constantly be there for you, encouraging you to become a better person. And I feel like that's the entire friend group we should look for, right? People who are constantly encouraging you. So I've done episodes on this in the past as well, but anyone out there who feels like they're with a group of friends or a group of people that aren't building you up into a better version of yourself, if your friends aren't the people who are encouraging you to do better, to be better, and doing that themselves as well, might be time for you to try and figure out a new friend group.
Yeah.
And do you have any examples of that in your life?
Yeah, I've received some, inspiring counsel in the past about like picking friends and surrounding myself with the right type of people. And I think that's something I've done most of my life. Like I am careful and who I like to be around. Yep. And because I want to be around people that I said build me up or inspire me. And I right now, I always am looking for those types of people, but I think being able to reach out and put yourself out there, like it takes effort to meet these types of people and putting yourself in the right rooms or groups. Like I signed up for an Ironman. All of a sudden I started meeting a ton of people that did Ironmans. Yep. I was like, dang, this is a really cool elite group of people. Or I started a company. I've met so many founders who are starting their own companies. I'm like, wow, this is amazing. And so I think if you want to meet new people, go try something new. Like go push yourself, and who you are attracts other people who are like that. And so it's a grind, it's a fight, but I 1000% agree. Having a good, solid group of people you can trust and inspire you is, I think, almost essential.
Definitely. Keeps you accountable, keeps you growing, doesn't get you stagnant, keeps you out of trouble in a lot of ways.
Oh, yeah. And when you're doing good, like you can help other people, and when you're not doing good, they can help you. Yep. And because there's times where you're not doing good, or like you're missing your goals and you're just burnt out. But if you have other people that are like doing well, it can build you up and help
it gets that momentum going.
Yeah,
right?
It builds momentum.
Yeah. So I want to hear, as we're kind of closing up today's episode of Get Over Yourself podcast, I want to hear what's next in your journey. You're a founder, you're still trying to grow your business, but like, what are the next steps? How can people find you? How can people help you out?
Oh, great question. So, 2024, again, I felt like 2023 I had a lot of things I'd accomplished, and I'm really proud. And I started a lot of things, like started our own podcast. I did a race, and I'm building this company. So I've been doing these things. 2024 to me is continuation. It's like, okay, I started, but like, how am I going to keep going? Do I have the endurance to keep building, pretty much?
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of things that we're continuing to work on business-wise, but also things that I'm working on that I've never done before.
Okay.
I'll give you an example. So with Dojo, all of our classes, we do live classes. It's all done remote, it's all done virtual, but we love live interaction because I believe it allows you to get better feedback and connect with your teachers and ask the right questions. So we love that aspect, but we're also building out like an online curriculum. So I've been exploring this online course realm so we can make our lessons and more accessible to more people. And I don't know if your listeners read the scriptures often, but I've been reading my scripture a lot, and I see so many examples of spiritual leaders who are asked to do things that they've never done before. And I feel kind of in the same boat. We're like, okay, I have this direction. It's something I've not done before, but I'm excited to kind of go and chase it. And I've seen this pattern where I feel like God gives you direction, but rarely gives instructions. And I'm working through this concept, but he'll tell you like, hey, you should go do this, or this is a good path to pursue. Like, hey, well, how do I do that? And like, you have to be the one to go and figure that out. And as you're figuring it out, more light, more knowledge or experience is going to come. And so I think if you have something that you're working on as well, like, don't be afraid to just go and try, even if you don't know anything about it, because it's through action that you begin to learn and understand. And so I think for me, with the online course, I don't know a lot, but I've been learning a lot through attempts and research and mentors. And so we've been diving pretty heavily into that in 2024, and that has been something I'm really excited about.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
There's a lot of good things ahead.
Yeah.
I'm so excited. Just like you, I love the fresh start of a new year. But I like how you put it too. It's a continuation. Like, just because it's a new year doesn't mean that everything you worked on the past year is done. You gotta keep grinding on it. That's my motto this year. I don't know how well you can see this because of the reflection and the glare on the camera here, but my motto this year in 2024 is I don't stop when I'm tired, I stop when I'm done. And it's that continuation process. It's constantly doing it until the job's finished. So, but yeah, thanks, man, for coming on the show. Where can people find you so they can connect with you and hear a little bit more about your journey, or if they're interested in the Sales Dojo?
100%. So honestly, you kind of heard shared earlier, but if you want to connect with me, I use LinkedIn a lot.
I think LinkedIn, man, I swear.
I think LinkedIn is such a powerful tool that so many people underutilize. Yeah. And so connect with me on LinkedIn, shoot me a message. If you reference this show, like, we'll have to hop on a one-on-one or something. That'd be pretty cool. But connect with us there. If you want to learn a little more about Sales Dojo, you can actually just type in salesdojo.com. Takes you to our website. And then on the online course topic, we actually just created an online course teaching people how to optimize their LinkedIn use.
Perfect.
So it's a free course. This one is free, even though we talked about
Oh, man, I didn't know if I could use it anymore.
We wanted to make a free course because we see that this is something that everybody needs. Everyone needs to get better at using LinkedIn. So we have a free LinkedIn course that you'll be able to start downloading off of our website and different things like that. And yeah, I think that's a good place to start.
Good stuff, man. And your LinkedIn title and everything, what is that so people can find it?
Yep, Jaron Erickson. I think I put my middle initial, Jaron A. Erickson.
Perfect. And then the first face for everyone watching. Right?
See my face. But yeah, connect with me, shoot me a message. I'd love to hear you guys' thoughts. Brandon, I think what you've done is amazing and is inspiring, again, on the consistency side, on the mission behind what you're doing side. And it's cool to even learn from you in this realm. I think you do an awesome job.
Thanks, man. And thanks for coming on. Guys, thank you so much for listening to today's episode of Get Over Yourself podcast. Once again, go make sure to check out Jaron on LinkedIn or check out his website at salesdojo.com. If it would mean the world to me if you enjoyed today's episode to give it a 5-star review, as well as share it with somebody who you think could benefit from hearing today's conversation. So guys, with that all being said, just remember it'll all be okay and keep getting over yourself. See you next time.